All right. So, bell ringer for today. Oh boy, got a bunch of stuff up. There we go. So, describe how events like Kristallnacht and the creation of the Nuremberg laws occurred in Nazi Germany under Hitler's regime. How could ordinary citizens commit such acts of hate against other ethnic and cultural groups? There we go. There we go. So, give you some time to work on this. All right, so use the information we went over the past couple of days and write this out. As many people ask that question. How could ordinary citizens commit such crimes like this in Germany? You can maybe see the SS, the SA, the Gestapo. Many of these Nazis do things like this, but ordinary citizens, what's going on here? All right, I'll give you a few minutes to work on that. We'll move on. You all finished already? Jeez. Oh, all right, man. Okay, a list of current events for tomorrow. Good to go. All right, good stuff. All right, so let's go over this real quick. Okay, we went over Kristallnacht. We all know that as the Night of Broken Glass. Okay, we know the Nuremberg laws was to try to take citizenship away from these Jewish people that were residing in Germany and into parts of Austria, which we'll talk today about. Sudetenland, okay, another place we're going to talk about. And this was something that was really trying to target these groups and push them out of Germany, okay? And we mentioned about how this was even forbidding against any type of relationships with German citizens. Jobs, businesses, occupations, all taken away from these people. And with Kristallnacht, we know there's the destruction of these businesses and the killing of many of these Jewish people, and destroyed many of these Nazis destroyed churches, synagogues, synagogues, which are churches, and destroyed cemeteries, okay, places of worship, you name it. All right, so how could ordinary citizens within Germany, people that were neighbors to these Jewish people, people that were friends at one point, maybe even family members, how could they perform these acts of hate towards this group and other minority groups within Germany? How could they do it? Chris, what do you have?
You said that people forced in their acts and ordinary citizens would take these acts, but acts of hate because if you read the new word of the Nazis and the other than that, some of them just believe what Hitler stood for.
Yeah, good work, right? So fear, especially, that's one of the biggest factors that play into this is fear, okay? The military is constantly walking down the streets. The authority that Hitler had within Germany, okay, and how many of these people were fearful of their lives if they challenged or opposed any of the Nazi beliefs or ideologies, right? So if they ever opposed, that could risk their livelihood. That could risk their life, okay, and their family's lives in these areas all throughout Germany. So definitely fear. That's a good one. Good job, Ethan. What do you have? Okay, yeah. So fear. Good work. Haley Klinger, what do you have? Same thing. Does anybody have anything else? What about the use of propaganda, right? Media, the control of the media, right? So Germany and Nazi Germany at this time, propaganda, the media was only strictly viewed in one point, okay? And this was in favoritism of the Nazi Party. And let's face it, they went through this depression. The Weimar Republic was not trusted by many of the people in Germany. And all of a sudden, Hitler's promising things to these German people and giving it to them, right? Everything he's promised so far, he's given to the people, like a better standard of living. They can now afford different items and luxury style items. They have now the ability to go to entertainment centers, go out to the bars, go out to restaurants. Okay, he brought a wealth, a prosperity to Germany. So to challenge that kind of goes against maybe what they were looking for, obviously through this depression. And obviously with these hard times, if someone gives these people something or something they desire or want, they'll pretty much dive full steam ahead. Right? And we know not all groups appeased to Hitler, and not all groups followed of what the Nazi Party pushed out. And what was one group that challenged the Nazis? Do you guys remember? Especially with an education. Chris, do you know?
White Rose.
Yeah, the White Rose. Good job. Good job. So we all good on that, guys? All right. Kevin, what's up, buddy?
How do they know people were in different religions?
So how they know if the Nazis, if they knew of these different groups? A lot of it was hearsay. A lot of it was depending on their citizens to tell them, who these neighbors, these other citizens, their friends belong to, what ethnicity, what culture, what religion, and really strict background checks. Okay, so it was almost like they're monitoring their everyday movements and where these people go and where they worship and what entertainments they belong to. It was really involved in these people's lives. So if they didn't know, if they didn't find out, they would sooner or later. Right? It's unfortunate.
Someone hide though, right?
Point. Yep. So many of these Jewish people would hide in people's homes that obviously didn't fully agree with what the Nazis were about, and that was definitely something. And I know that movie trailer I showed, Jojo Rabbit, that was one of the issues there, or one of the things that the child had a struggle with at first. It's like, wait, my mom's hiding a Jewish Jewish person in my house, and I had no idea, right? And then once he found out, he maybe opened up a little bit to the fact that these people are people, right? They're not everything what the Nazis portray them as. Check out the movie, though. Check out the movie. I promise you that you'll really enjoy it. Okay, terms for today. Oh, not these terms. Here we go. So hopefully turned in your map. We have Appeasement, Munich Pact, Blitzkrieg, and Axis powers. Okay, so we're going to start getting involved and talking about some of the aggression that Germany's going to have, how Hitler's maybe going to overstep his boundaries that the League of Nations established. But no one was there to really stop him. So we got Appeasement, Munich Pact, Blitzkrieg, and Axis powers. There you go. I'll give you, how about 3 minutes to look these terms up, and we'll talk about them. All right, appeasement. What does appeasement mean? What do we have here? Zerby, what do you got for appeasement? All right, good job. So to try to avoid conflict, to try to avoid maybe a future war, these countries, which we're going to talk about the Allied powers, appease Hitler, okay? They appease Hitler with land, territory, because they want to try to avoid war as much as possible. They know that they don't have a strong military to compete with what Hitler has. So they appease him. It's like, hey, take this, you can have it, just maybe stop, okay? Stop after this. If we give you this land, then please stop. It's almost like, bless you, bless you. Whew. It's almost like giving a kid a present or a toy for them to stop overreacting. Maybe you're in a store or something, he's freaking out, he's jumping all over the place, he's screaming, he's crying. It's like, hey, I'll give you a toy as long as you stop. It's pretty much what that means. Munich Pact. What's a Munich Pact? Go ahead, Angel.
The agreement concluded at Munich September 30th, 1939, and remained the United Kingdom, Italy.
Yeah, good job. So this pact, this agreement was signed by Hitler, okay? Mussolini was there as well. So Italy, Germany was there, and then Great Britain, okay? So Great Britain said, hey, here's the agreement that we're going to have. As long as if we give you the Sudetenland, which we'll talk about today, if we give you this land, you can no longer be aggressive. You can no longer take any more land. And they signed this pact with the intentions of setting up and establishing an alliance with Poland. So if Hitler expands any more, which they knew Poland was his next target, then war would happen next. All right, war would happen. So this pact was agreement of appeasing Hitler, giving him land so that he would maybe stop his expansion. What's that German word again? The expansion, living space. What is that term again? Do we remember? Lebensraum. Good job. Lebensraum. So make sure you remember that. Probably be on the quiz. Blitzkrieg. What do we have? Lance, go ahead.
German battle tactic sent a huge force at one time. It's called lightning warfare. And it moves really fast.
Yeah, good job. So in parentheses, put right beside it, lightning warfare. Okay, lightning warfare. And this was a strategy really first used at the start of World War II. The Germans came up, well, as actually a tactic that Great Britain came up with, but Germany finally used it. Okay, they used and employed this. So it first comes in with the Luftwaffe, which is the Air Force, okay, the German Air Force. They bomb and destroy as much of the enemy as possible. And then they come in with the tanks to try to break down any type of barriers, any blockades. And then the infantry come in, the soldiers, the ground troops, kind of mop up what's left. And that's it, lightning warfare right there. So using all elements on the battlefield for land attacks. And the tanks, for the first time in history, were equipped with radios. Why do you think radios are important to have in the tanks? Haley, go ahead. Yeah, communication, to talk, to communicate with each other. Hey, maybe outflank them to the left, outflank them to the right. And now these tanks are equipped with these forms of communication, which allows them to really be more efficient on the battlefield. Good. All right, Axis powers. What countries belong with the Axis powers during World War II? Ethan, I'll give you this one because it's right above your head. Yeah, good job. Germany, Japan, and Italy. Okay, Germany, Japan, and Italy. And we'll talk about who's involved with the Allied powers at 1939, okay? It'll change when we get to 1940, 1941, but 1939, there's only two powers I want you to know. But the Axis powers, these are like the bad guys, right, during World War II. We have Germany, Italy, and Japan. All right, any questions on those terms? Good? All right, moving on today. Quite a bit of information, but we'll be good. It's not too much, okay? I'll break it down, and I have a video to share, which kind of brings it full concept together. All right, so where do we begin here? Where do we begin? All right. Here we go. Okay, so with appeasement, we already talked about this just a bit, but one of the biggest things that especially, wait, hold on one second. Yep, there we go. We're at this slide. So we talked about the totalitarian dictators. We talked about how they're growing, how they're expanding, okay, and how they want to try to inspire nationalism, okay, this national pride throughout their country. They're building up their militaries, okay, and unfortunately, like I mentioned, they're looking to expand. They're looking to expand their territory and claim more land, more living space for their people, okay, especially Germany at this time. And what was that treaty again that really tried to take away these territories, demilitarize Germany, and make sure that they really never become a dominant power again? Haley? Yeah, the Treaty of Versailles. Good job. Treaty of Versailles. And Hitler hated this treaty, right? He knew that this was trying to restrict what Germany was all about. Okay, it was almost like handcuffing them. Right? We all know that Germany, at the start of World War I, into World War I, they're very prideful of their military. They're the most dominant country when it came to land military and technology. Okay, and the people loved it, right? The people loved it. They had a lot of pride in their military. And once that was taken away, what are you supposed to be prideful about? Okay, once their land was taken away, their territory, they lost a lot of industrial power. Okay, then they had to pay back these reparations. They weren't allowed to have a navy. Oh my gosh, you name it. So when Hitler comes into power, which we talked about, he pretty much gives everybody what they want, right? He starts building up the military. He gives people's jobs. He gives them a higher standard of living. And this is kind of building up more and more until he's going to take a little bit more than he can chew, which we'll talk about. But for the most part, he was unchallenged for many years up until right around 1941. But we're talking about 1938 here. Okay, we talked about Kristall Nacht, we talked about the Nuremberg laws, and it looks like he's almost unstoppable. Okay, and it's going to look like this until, like I mentioned, until 1941. All right, so with the United States, what was the United States going through at this time? Lentz? Great Depression. Yeah, so do you think they're involved with anything going on in Europe? No, not at all. Not at all, okay? So it was really up to Great Britain and France to try to solve the issues and disputes. And even at that time, they viewed the USSR, the Soviet Union, as a bigger threat than the Nazis. Why? Lentz, what do you think? Just this arch rival to the rest of the world than Nazi Germany. What political view do they have? Communists. Yep, good job. They're communism, especially. More people were viewed that communism, this Red Scare, was a lot more threatening than what the Nazis were at this time. Okay, not many people knew what Hitler's master plan was. Not many people knew what was going on exactly within Germany with Kristall Nacht. Okay, yeah, they heard stories. They heard maybe some tidbits about what kind of was going on, but they didn't really fully believe it. The only thing they knew, 1936, 1937, 1938, was, hey, he turned his country around within a few short years. Okay, there's a lot of prosperous times there. There's a lot of wealth. Right? I talked about the Olympic Games being held there. Okay, many countries came to Germany and were just shocked. It's like, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable how they did this in such short time. All right, so yeah, the Soviet Union was viewed as the biggest threat there at the time, and not many people knew exactly what the Nazis' end game was, what their goal was. Okay, and they viewed it as really just Germany prospering in a time where everybody else is going through a depression. All right, so Hitler, given an inch but takes a mile. That's a great expression for how he's trying to expand his territory, his land. And what's that called? What's living space called again? What's this expansion of land that Hitler wants to accomplish? What's it? Lentz? Lebensraum. Good job. Lebensraum. All right, so with Hitler, he promised to the people, hey, we're going to take back these lands that we lost at the end of World War I. Many of these lands that are now created with other countries, and you all know the map. You know where these countries are located now. With Czechoslovakia, okay, with Poland, right? This part of Alsace-Lorraine that we talked about at the end of the Franco-Prussian War. All right, moving into parts of Denmark, okay, maybe even parts of Austria. A lot of these lands were all broken up. And what happens there? Do you think these people just change their language, their culture, their ethnicity, just like that, the snap of a finger? No, not at all. Okay, not at all. Especially in these countries like Czechoslovakia, like Poland, okay, that are just starting up, that are just being created. Do you think they have a strong military? Melissa, what do you think? No, probably not. Right? So already you have people that speak different languages, have a different culture. Okay? These countries really aren't established just yet. A lot of these countries are going through a depression. They have really no leg to stand on to try to become stronger. There's really no support from other countries because they are also going through a depression. And we all know if you kind of push all these different groups, these languages, cultures, ethnicities, all in one country, what do you think is probably going to happen in these countries? What do you think, Lance? You think there's going to be rebellions and anarchy and chaos? Yeah, for the most part, right? So Hitler kind of tells the rest of the world, I'm just going to take these lands back, claim these lands for the German Reich, and We're going to try to have some sustainability here in Europe. We're going to try to end the violence that's going on all throughout Europe. And everybody kind of bought it. It's like, you know what? That makes sense. Right? That makes sense. He's just trying to bring back the German-speaking people into his country. He's trying to gain these lands back that was taken away from him. Right? The Treaty of Versailles really didn't make sense to him. All right, so the first thing, the Anschluss, 1938. All right, this was Austria. Okay, Austria, right, we all know that that was their best buddy in World War I, and now it's really broken up. They're going through depression. Okay, so Austria is right there below Germany, and they thought, well, rather than going in guns a-blazing, let's just parade our military around the streets and show the Austrian people what kind of military power we have and what we are all about. And the Austrian people were very accepting of it. They said, yeah, sounds good. We'll join you. No problem. No conflict. Yeah, I'm sure there's some groups that really didn't appreciate it or didn't want that to happen. But for the most part, Austria going through this depression, having a lot of issues post-World War I, they saw the military power that Germany had, and they saw the prosperity and wealth that the German people had. So they said, yeah, take us over. No problem. It's going to be annexed. And Austria is a part of Germany now. So when you look at your maps, you can color in Austria red because Germany just took it over like that. No problem. No problem. There was no fight. There's no conflict because the Austrian people saw the wealth, the prosperity, the military power Germany had and wanted to be a part of it. So there you go. The Anschluss, 1938, peacefully took power in Austria. Hitler just took it over just by parading his military around the streets. And all you see is Nazi flags being hung up everywhere and people having jobs. Okay, the wealth that Germany had, Austria wanted a piece of it. All right, so fall, 1938, the Sudetenland. Okay, Sudetenland is the western part of Czechoslovakia, not all of it. Okay, the western part of Czechoslovakia. All right, and this was broken up at the end of World War I where many German people were located. They lived there, okay? They spoke German. They had a lot of religious background, ethnic background, culture of German background. And they're combined there in Czechoslovakia with a bunch of Slavic-speaking people. All right, people that have descent of Russian. So do you think that's going to work in that country? Not too much, not too much. There's going to be a lot of disputes, a lot of arguments. And there's really not going to be much, I guess you could say, any type of friendship or alliances amongst these people. So Hitler communicates with the League of Nations, France and Great Britain, says, hey, I want the Sudetenland. They speak German. There's a lot of industries there too. So yeah, there's another advantage that why Hitler wanted this land was because of industries, factories. We can grow our military, right? We can become a stronger country. We can give our people more jobs. And it's like, oh, man, they speak our language. They have our same culture. We want to end the hostility amongst this new country. And they take it over, no problem. And then this is starting this, to the League of Nations, this is what really kind of kicks off of where these people start to maybe question what Hitler's plan is. When is he going to stop expanding? Right? He annexed Austria. He took the Sudetenland. No problem. No problem. So now Great Britain and France are thinking, he's not abiding by the rules. He's not abiding by what the Treaty of Versailles was set out to accomplish. In other words, Hitler kind of uses that Treaty of Versailles as toilet paper. He doesn't follow it whatsoever. Do you think he's paying back reparations? Heck no. Heck no. All right, so you guys good with that? So the Anschluss, that's really just the annexation of Austria, marched his troops in there. Everybody said, yep, we want this prosperity that Germany has. The Sudetenland, not much fighting, a little bit, but the Sudetenland was the western part of Czechoslovakia. Okay, a lot of German people were located there, and he took it because they speak German. It was a great alibi, I guess you could say, an excuse to why he wanted that land and why he took it. And we all know that as Lebensraum, breathing space, living room, all right? Living space for the German people. All right, so after the Sudetenland, the Allied powers come together. Great Britain especially, they were the people trying to hold the peace in Europe at this time. And they tried to appease Hitler. They tried to maybe stop him from expanding even more. All right, so that is called the Munich Conference, the Munich Pact, the Munich Agreement. That was one of the vocab terms that you had to research at the start of class. And this agreement really was Great Britain's Prime Minister, Chamberlain. Okay, he came in and he said, hey, Hitler, you got to stop here. Okay, you're not following the rules by the Treaty of Versailles. Right? You're expanding your power more and more. It seems like every day. And this agreement here is for you to sign that you will promise not to expand anymore. Okay, we'll give you the Sudetenland. We'll let you have Austria. But after this, that's it. Okay, you can't expand anymore. Right? You must stop. If not, there will be war. What do you think Hitler does? Do you think he signs the agreement? Lentz? Don't overthink it. Do you remember from conflicts? What does he do with the paper? Yeah, he does sign it. Okay, yeah, he does sign it. So Hitler says, yeah, no problem. We'll abide by the rules. Okay, it just makes sense that we take that land, though, because they speak German. They have the same culture as us. And Chamberlain's like, oh, yeah, totally agree with you, man. Totally agree with you. Why do you think Chamberlain was trying to appease Hitler? What do you think? Chris? Yeah, he didn't want another war. Why do you think he didn't want another war? Yeah. All right. At the end of World War I, Great Britain and France really weren't building up their militaries. They're kind of sitting back. Treaty of Versailles told them not to. The League of Nations said, nope, we're not building up our militaries anymore. Germany didn't follow the rules at all. Same with the Soviet Union. Same with Italy, right? But Germany especially. So Chamberlain knew if we go to war, we're done, right? There's no way we can compete with what Germany has. Their military is way too strong. So they come up with this Munich Conference, Munich Agreement, Munich Pact, whatever you want to call it, right? So Chamberlain comes home. That picture in the top right corner is him kind of waving the paper. He comes home to Great Britain. Hitler signed this. This is peace in our time. No longer, okay, is he going to be aggressive in Europe. No longer is he going to, expand his power. He gave me his word. He signed the paper. Do you think he abides by it? Haley Klinger, what do you think? No, not at all. Not at all. Hitler kind of laughed and chuckled. He's like, he believes that I'm not going to expand anymore. That's funny. That's funny. No, kind of lied to him, lied blatantly to him. And Chamberlain going home and telling the people of Great Britain and the rest of the world that there won't be another conflict kind of views him as a liar as well. But he just wanted to hold on to that paper. He said, he promised. I swear he promised. You guys good with that? 1 second? Okay. Don't fill us out just yet. We didn't get to all these parts. But this is what Hitler's eventually going to establish the Axis powers in Europe. You can see pretty much all of Europe is in red. You can see it's pretty much all taken over by the Axis powers. So that Munich Agreement, that Munich Pact, that signed paper that Hitler signed, right? Do you think that it's going to last? No. He lies to them. All right. So like I said, just hold on and filling out the map, coloring the map just yet. We'll get to those parts soon. All right, Crystal talked about, okay, Hitler starts World War II. So then in 1939, Hitler takes the rest of Czechoslovakia. He goes against the Munich Pact, right? He takes all of Czechoslovakia. So Chamberlain of Great Britain, France, okay, the country, they decide, well, we're going to have to sign an alliance with Poland because that's his next stop. That's his next aiming point is Poland. Okay, we can see all these countries right around in here, right on the eastern border of Germany. That's where he's expanding first. Okay, that's where he's expanding first. He knows he can pick them up real quick. he knows he can maybe communicate with the Allied powers. It's just because they speak German. All right, it's just because they have German culture. It makes sense. I'm just trying to have peace here, guys. Trying to end the anarchy all throughout Europe, the chaos. And they kind of go with him at first. But once he kind of steps over this Munich Pact, once he steps over this Munich Agreement, that's when France and Great Britain know they need to potentially stop him. So, number one, France and Great Britain, they signed this alliance with Poland. So if Germany ever attacks Poland, World War II will start. And sooner or later, that's what happens. So September 1st, 1939, Hitler invades Poland, officially starting World War II. And he uses Blitzkrieg to do so. We know Blitzkrieg as lightning warfare. First coming in with the Air Force, loosening up the opponent, the opposition. Then the tanks roll in with the radios to communicate with each other. And then the infantry storm the battlefield, kind of mopping up whoever's left, whoever's crawling around on the ground, picking them off as they keep moving, as they continue to stay aggressive. So that Munich Pact, that Munich Agreement, was it successful? No, not at all. Didn't work out at all. But before Hitler could take Poland, he decides to make a non-aggression pact. He decides to make an alliance. Who do you think he makes an alliance with? What's that?
Russia.
The Soviet Union. Yep, Russia, right? So he makes an agreement with the Soviet Union. Why does he make an agreement with the Soviet Union? We know the Soviet Union's communistic, right? They're at the far left of the political spectrum. I guess for you guys if you were here. And then we know with fascism, Hitler, Mussolini, those two, they're best buds, right? They're at the far right of the political spectrum. This doesn't make any sense, right? Why would they have an alliance? Why would they try to join sides? This is what confuses the rest of the world. Hitler hates communists. He speaks about it in his Mein Kampf book, right? He expresses it in many speeches. But why would they have an agreement? Why would they have an agreement before taking over Poland? Look where Poland's at. Right? So on the map here, these countries aren't here just yet, but Poland's smack dab right between the Soviet Union and Germany. Right? So Hitler decides to try to make sure that there's not a two-front war, to make sure that there isn't a war on both sides, on two fronts. He's going to make an agreement with Stalin and the Soviet Union that they will have a non-aggression pact, that they won't attack each other. Okay? So Hitler communicates with Stalin, we'll split up Poland. Half of it goes to you, half of it goes to us, right? And why do you think he tried to do that? Again, he doesn't want to fight in two fronts. What was one of the biggest mistakes for Germany in the First World War? They had to fight on what? Two fronts, right? So Hitler, kind of thinking about it, you know what? We can maybe have this non-aggression pact. We're not best friends with them whatsoever. But at the same time, if we can agree on terms, we can just focus on Great Britain and France, beat them up a little bit because we know we're way stronger than them. And then eventually, maybe we can attack the Soviet Union. Maybe. All right, so here are some political cartoons describing that alliance, describing that friendship that they have, Stalin and Hitler. So you can see them walking hand in hand. You can see them stepping over Poland. But at the same time, a lot of these propaganda pieces, what does Hitler have behind his back? What does Stalin have behind his back? A gun. Yeah, a gun. And this one especially. Right? And then that one especially. And they're stepping on Poland. They're shaking hands, but at the same time, with the other hand, they have a gun behind their back. This just shows that these two powers, although they have an agreement to take Poland, they don't really see eye to eye. Right? They don't have the same ideals. They don't have the same beliefs. Sooner or later, this alliance, this friendship that they have at the start of World War II is not going to last. All right, is there any questions? You guys good with that? And we already know what Blitzkrieg is, so here's just some pictures of it. So we know first they come in with the Air Force, bombing runs over the battlefield, the tanks roll in, and then the infantry kind of mop up whoever's left. Oh, okay. You guys good with that? All right, quiz tomorrow. Just let you know. So make sure you guys are ready for that. Look over the notes. It's going to be all about what we just went over. There's nothing going to be on there that we didn't talk about just yet. So there you go. Oh, on the post, I do have a video that helps summarizes how Hitler expanded. It talks about the Munich Pact. It talks about his offensive. Okay, it talks about the Anschluss. It talks about Sudetenland. So please check that out. It's a good review. Okay, it's a good review.